Understanding contours. Before we do too much with building surfaces and such, it would be helpful if we knew how to visualize and interpolate surfaces, or basically understand what we are looking at when looking at a surface. It would also help if we chose one of the terrain representation types. For the purposes of understanding how to interpolate surfaces, we will choose the contour type. So, what exactly is a contour? A contour is a line connecting all points of equal elevation above or below a known assumed reference point or plane. So this is an example of a contour line. So we'll just imagine along this line are a series of points that have equal elevation, and all of those points have been connected, which means this line you could say is coplanar. It is coplanar in the XY plane. Existing contours. Existing contours are drawn as dashed gray lines. They don't necessarily have to be gray, they just have to be pulled back in the drawing. So they're going to be lighter than all of your regular line work. Then we have proposed contours. And proposed contours are a lot darker in color, and they tend to be also a solid line and not a dashed line. Contour or elevation labels. If we're drawing this by hand, we want to make sure that our contour labels are on the higher side of the contour line. So for example, over here we see the value of 100. We wouldn't have 100 on this side of the line because if we look at this, this is at elevation 100, this is 101. So if my cursor is moving this way, it's moving up in the terrain. So over here is higher and over here is lower. So we want the number to be on the higher side of the elevation line. So it's going to be on the uphill side. Contour intervals. So contour intervals may vary depending upon the density of your contours. So if you have a drawing of, say, over 1,000 contours, you're probably not going to want to label them every 1 foot, maybe every 10 or 20 feet. So common contour intervals is 1 foot, 2 foot, 5 foot, 10, 20, and basically from there any number times the 10th value, so 30, 40, 50, 60, etc. We probably wouldn't do something that's like every 3 feet or every 7 foot because it can be kind of hard to read. So how do we delineate that? We can also visually delineate contour intervals. So when using every 1 foot, we tend to make every 5th one a little bit darker. So we kind of do it like this. So we just make the line just a little bit thicker, not necessarily darker. And it makes it a little bit easier to read if you have many of these contours. And then sometimes we use something called ticks, which can help us to see the start and end of proposed contour work. And some people like to use like little tick lines, some people will use dots. So ticks can be kind of a very generic term. It doesn't have to be little dashes like I've shown here. They can be pretty much anything as long as it's easy to read, doesn't clutter up the drawing, and you can tell when a proposed contour starts and stops.